Welcome back, my friends, to the Chofetz Chaim Said What? And we're getting right into the good stuff. Principle 6. You ready? Let's do it. And so it starts in Principle 6, Section 5. Let's return to the subject. In Section 2, we discussed even hearing Lashon Hara is an Isser, or prohibition of the Torah, meaning to go and hear. If someone is sitting with people who are gathered for a certain purpose and they began speaking forbidden things, and he feels that his words of reproof would be to no avail, then what he should do depends on the following. So if we are, God forbid, in a situation where people start speaking Lashon Hara, maybe we're at a business meeting, maybe, God forbid, we're even at a Shabbos table, Chas v'shalom. I know they don't happen at the Shabbos tables that you go to. Then we have to think of different ways that we do not hear the information, because just listening to the information in itself is a prohibition. So what do we do? Well, we're going to find out right now. If it's possible for him to leave or to place his fingers in his ears, then it is a mitzvah to do so. So if it's, I guess maybe not a business meeting, but maybe you're just hanging out with friends, right? And you're like, oh, so sorry. Look at the time. I gotta go. It's so nice meeting with you, ladies. It's so nice meeting with you, gentlemen. Excuse me. All right. So saying that's the best thing to do. If you can't just get up and leave, which maybe this could be in a business meeting type of scenario, then to just do this maybe for a little bit. So you can't hear. Sometimes I guess hum something nice. So that's the only thing I hear. Right? So then it is a mitzvah to do so. Says the Chazal in Kesubos. If it is impossible for him to leave, and he feels that by putting the fingers in his ears, that it's difficult for him, and they would mock him. So whatever type of scenario this would be, right? It could even be I guess this would mostly be if you're around people who don't really understand, right? So then by putting in his fingers in his ears, it would look pretty ridiculous. Maybe he's at work and the boss wouldn't appreciate it, right? Then he certainly could not do this, right? It's just not an option for him or her, right? Staying very PC here. Let him see to it to guard himself at this time of the trial, and battle the war of the Lord with his evil inclination, not to stumble in any event into Torah of hearing, into the Torah of hearing and accepting Lashon Hara. This entails 3 requirements in which he must take great heed, so that he rescues himself from the Isser of the Torah, which adheres to the sin. So we're saying that we need to find another way to guard ourselves that isn't walking away or putting our fingers in our ears or humming to ourselves, whatever it is. So he must resolve within himself with a firm resolve not to believe the demeaning things that they're saying about his friends, right? And we're not saying friends, like you don't need to be like buddy with the person they're speaking of, right? When we say friend, we are talking about a fellow Jew, a fellow person in general, right? So this could even be an acquaintance to you, but we're saying that we are not going to believe the information we're hearing, which we already know is a very difficult thing to do. But if we have to be in this situation, we're saying that we are not going to believe the demeaning things that are being said. Next, he should not be comfortable in hearing these forbidden things, right? We should never feel comfortable. Even that little bit of discomfort is a good thing. It's a good thing to feel because it's a sin, right? And we're trying to keep ourselves away from that. And he must discipline himself to not reveal to the speakers in any way or movement in which it would appear that he agrees with what they are saying, right? So we're not just going, la, 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 and just nodding along, right? We're not listening, No, but you are in some way encouraging it, and you're saying, oh yeah, I approve of what you're saying, so you can say it in front of me anytime, right? And please continue with what you're saying. So it's mostly we're not going to listen, and we're going to be uncomfortable. We're not going to believe the information. We're going to be uncomfortable, and we're not going to show that we approve. So maybe if it means that you're sitting there and you're sitting back and maybe looking upset, or even just going, right? It's just shaking your head, right? Whatever that is, we need to show. Or even if it says to not reveal that you agree, but you can also show that you disapprove, because if you do that, then you're saying, this is not what I like. While I am here, please do not do this in front of me. So even though it's just saying, just don't show you approve, which means that you could literally just be sitting there, poker face, right? We can also show that we don't approve of what they're saying. So what have we said so far? If you cannot walk away or place your fingers in your ears, or even in other classes, we spoke about different things. What I like to do personally is change the subject. So, and not in a way that's rude or disrespectful. That's not what I recommend, but changing the subject in a way that it's random, which is sort of how my brain works anyway. The information just comes. So when it comes to me, I'm just like, oh, by the way, did you know that dogs have 3 eyelids? I believe that's true. People will be like, oh, wow, that's super weird. Just have weird facts or information off the top of your head, right? And you could even, it could be anything, right? It could be random. It can even be related in a way that you're changing the subject and moving away from the topic of that person. But just anything that will, move the conversation along and stop the Lashon Hara. I know people brought up several ideas in my class, all wonderful things. If you look back at some of my classes, you will probably hear. I wish I could tell you which video it's in, but I do not remember. And if you have any suggestions, you can always comment them, message me, because any idea is a great idea. So then we actually have, from one of the emails from the Chofetz Chaim Heritage Foundation, they put together this whole thing. If you're at a Shabbos table and let's say Lashon Hara is happening, God forbid, at the Shabbos table that you are at, what do you do, right? So even though we discussed a few things, they have a very practical application right here. It says you're sitting at someone's Shabbos table or at a wedding, and several people start speaking Lashon Hara. What do? As we've just learned, listening to Lashon Hara is forbidden. How then can you avoid the transgression? So you can rebuke the gossipers, making sure, of course, that you do in a respectful way. So before, what we spoke about is if you know that your reproof won't do anything. But in some situations and in some groups, they might just listen to you. Say, hey, guys, I love you all. You're all wonderful people. We're so above this. You know that it's against the Torah to speak about people and speak Lashon Hara. Come on, guys. Let's talk about something else, right? So you could be in a group of people where they are very understanding. Hopefully at a Shabbos table, they're like, oh, you know what? I didn't even realize that it was getting to that point. Thank you, right? So you can remind them that it is a Torah prohibition, halachically equivalent to munching on shrimp or bacon. And I believe we spoke about this just in the last class, how severe of an avera it is to speak Lashon Hara. And this is putting it into perspective. So you can rebuke the gossipers, making sure, of course, to do it in a respectful way. You can remind them that this is a Torah prohibition. I literally just said that. Wow, that's where my brain is. Okay, wonderful. If you know that they will not listen to rebuke, then it is a great mitzvah, this is in quotes, writes the Chofetz Chaim to get up and leave the table. So that's what he said. That's the first option, if you're able to just get up and leave. 3, if you find this impossible, then you should prepare yourself to stand firm so that you will not be guilty of any sin. Make sure you fulfill the following requirements. So, and these are just what we discussed above, which is that you will not believe it, be uncomfortable about it, and that you'll not show any approval to the speaker of what they are saying. It says you should sit stone-faced if possible. Your expression should convey strong disapproval. So exactly what we said before. So it's not just that we're showing that we're not showing just that, we don't approve, but that we actually disapprove. The above applies if one is innocently sitting at one's place when the Lashon Hara conversation begins. However, if someone strolls through an area where he overhears such a conversation and stops to listen, or if he passes by a group known to be gossipers and stops to listen to their conversation, then, says the Chofetz Chaim, he is considered a willful sinner, God forbid, even if he takes no part in the conversation and does not approve of it. So this is not just we happen to be there and then the conversation is where we are. It's, walking past a group of people saying, oh, what are they talking about over here? Listening, hearing that it's about a person. Oh, wow. Oh, dang. Okay. No. All right. This is not one of those situations where you just stand there going, la, 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 la. I won't believe any of the information. I'll be a little uncomfortable, but also I really want to hear this juicy stuff. Right. We're not doing that. Not at all. Conversation, keep going. If it's a group of people who would listen through our proof, amazing. Then do it in a respectful way. Otherwise, keep walking. So the Chofetz Chaim continues that if one associates with such a group with the intention of hearing what they have to say, then he will be inscribed in heaven as a Baal Lashon Hara, God forbid, a habitual speaker of Lashon Hara. And his sin is too great to bear. And that's in quotes from the Chofetz Chaim. In a famous incident, the Chofetz Chaim was traveling when he found himself in the company of a group of traders who were deeply engrossed in a conversation. The Chofetz Chaim approached him and said, and what, may I ask, are we talking about? If it's horses, count me in. But if it's people, count me out. How did he do it? How did the Chofetz Chaim have the courage to approach mere strangers and tell them, if it's people you're talking about, then count me out? The answer is that the Chofetz Chaim understood precisely what was at stake, and he knew that our sages teach that one will be inscribed in heaven as a Baal Lashon Hara for willfully joining a group of gossipers. To the Chofetz Chaim, confronting these men with his question was a small sacrifice when the stakes are so very high. And even though we could say, oh, but he was just such a great man, I don't know if I could ever reach that point. You can. Hashem wouldn't say that we shouldn't do something if we were unable to do it, right? We had to be Moshe Rabbeinu, the Chofetz Chaim, right? We don't have to be. We all have the capability to just say, you know what? As much as I want to hear this juicy piece of gossip, juicy piece of Lashon Hara, I want Hashem to be proud of me more, or I want to even be proud of myself and show myself that I can do this. And then with that comes a closer relationship with Hashem. So actually at the end of this email, it does say a small step that you can do so that you can improve yourself. So I will remind myself at least once today, or once each day, that small people speak about others. As a way to give me confidence, I need to stay away from any negative conversations. So we need to know how great we are, how strong we are. We are above that. We are far beyond that level, especially if you come to my class all the time. I know you are. So I hope everyone has an amazing, amazing rest of their week. Bye.